right? It's gonna be like, it's the drinking show. Hey,
Hey.
so welcome to episode number 106 of Mirrorless Minutes. I'm Jamie.
Yep.
That's Mike. That's not Mike's room in Michigan. Hey, where are you at, Mike? Where are you at today?
Not unless my wife kicked me out. I am in Connecticut, Fairfield, Connecticut.
Nice.
So, yeah, beautiful, lovely, 35 degrees and windy. Gosh, it's one of those times when Michigan winters or fall sounds better than here.
Inescapable. I'm telling you, inescapable.
I know. I agree. I absolutely agree. But, yeah, what's new? I think I don't know. I feel like we should have been playing like taps or something when we came on for I was hoping I could get like a camera equipment to run past you.
Yeah, you know, I had an experience that we can definitely talk about. I'm gonna pop out the chat window here though, so I can interact with everybody. I forgot to pop it out earlier.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. So now I can see all
and I know Steve's got
here.
Questions. I think we'll get back to Steve on IM or something.
Yeah. All right. So you alluded to something a minute ago that a lot of people who are watching this probably will have already heard. And for those who don't follow me on social media, I've got a great story to tell today. And you know what? I tell you, this is going to be a little off normal script. Normally we do a little bit of talk back and forth. I'm just going to do my image share and just get it out of the way because it definitely ties into,
I was going to say you might
into the story. So I'm going to have a story partway through my image share.
Good lead in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And at the end of the podcast, I'll give you guys a mailing address so you guys can send condolence cards to me. It would be great.
We could GoFundMe page.
Yeah, right. There we go.
Hey, so when you come back after you talk about it, when you talk about the incident, you got to come back though, so people could see your face.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna start off here with this photo and a little bit of backstory with this. So I worked in conjunction with a local camera store to lead a one-day workshop here in Michigan. I've had a lot of success working with that store in the past, and seems to be, you know, pretty easy to get a group of people willing to go and do some shooting. And I kind of pitched the idea, hey, let's do this one-day event here, you know, around fall color time. And we'll just kind of do this little drive up the west side of the state, shoot some fall color, shoot some shorelines. And that's kind of what we did. A long day, met before sunrise in Muskegon, Michigan. And the goal was to make our way up probably about 2.5 hours north of that location and end the day up there. Weather was interesting that day. One of the first locations that we stopped at isn't represented in this photo, but it was another one just south of there. It was Little Sable Point Lighthouse. And it was beautiful sunrise. We had gorgeous clouds, beautiful way to start off the day. Really good. I had a lot of fun shooting there. And it's funny because it's not the typical time to shoot that location. The lighthouse is on Lake Michigan, which is on the west side of the state, which most people tend to go there and shoot a sunset because you'd be facing the lighthouse and the sun is setting behind it. But I chose this as a different a different time of day to shoot this, being at sunrise, because as the sun rises, it lights up the lighthouse. So you're not stuck with the lighthouse in silhouette. And cool location. We left from there to go to this place right here. So this place is, I've got it labeled as Bass Lake Outlet. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's what it is. It's a little swimming beach. Kind of one of those places that I think mostly only locals would know about. But I brought the group down there, and it was just as the weather really started to make a turn for, I'm not going to say the worst, I'm just going to say a turn for the more extreme than what it was and originally anticipated to be. So this was shot on the beach there with the EM1 Mark II and the 7-14, and I had on Nisi filters for this. I was shooting with a medium graduated ND filter. No tripod. We just kind of hiked out to this beach location, and, you know, me being the driftwood nerd that I am, I saw this log on the beach a little ways away from where we were shooting, and made the trek over there to put that in my composition. Not a whole lot of work in post with this. It's amazing. Again, I repeat over and over again what you can accomplish by throwing filters on. And, you know, of course, is at the widest end of 7mm, and just kind of getting down close and throwing the driftwood into the composition, you know, in the lower corner of the frame there, just as kind of a strong focal point and a visual guide, leading line, I guess, taking your eye off into the distance there. The next shot was the next location on the trip, which was supposed to be a beautiful fall color stop on our journey for the day. And you can see in the background there is a little bit of color, but what we ended up with actually was snow, quite a bit of snow. And it was kind of rough conditions to get back there. The road back there is a dirt road, and I was driving a little Ford Focus, and it was like off-roading to get back there. But you know what? I kind of looked at it as a really cool opportunity to shoot fall color and snow at the same time. Not something that happens a whole lot down in my portion of the state. It might happen further north, where we were at for this photo, but I was excited about it. I think that the people attending the workshop were a little thrown off by the whole thing because it's not what anybody was anticipating. But like I said, I'm a sucker for just taking advantage of whatever nature throws at me and trying to figure out a way to work with it. So that's kind of what I did here. I did the typical wide angle shots of the scenery, in between snow squalls. So this is actually shot in between heavy bands of snow that were rolling through. And I just threw this maple leaf out there and just kind of wanted to show the contrast between fall foliage and, well, I guess the early onset of winter here in Michigan. So we wrapped up shooting there and then decided we were trying to figure out where we were going to go from there, if we wanted to continue with the original itinerary that I had set up. And we were actually kind of ahead of schedule a little bit on this just because of the way things worked out in the previous locations. And looking at the weather and just kind of winging it. And I always tell people, when you go on a workshop, an itinerary is your guideline. It's generally what's going to happen, but they tend to be fluid. I mean, things can change. And that's exactly what happened with this weather here. So we weren't sure what the weather was going to be doing on the lakeshore, and ended up heading west to the lakeshore to another stop where we were actually going to originally end the day at this point. But again, weather and people changing their mind on whether they wanted to hang out up north in the snow or not, we ended up making this be the mid-afternoon stop. And this is Point Betsy Lighthouse, again on Lake Michigan. What you can't tell from this is that the wind gusts were seriously easily 35 to 40 miles an hour. One of the attendees, Mike Hedge, it was funny. We were standing there on the beach and I could literally lean my body at an angle, probably 25 or 30 degrees, and the wind would hold me up. It was intense. And I've shot this lighthouse quite a few different times, and usually I'm a lot closer and I shoot with a really wide angle lens. And I wanted to do something completely different than what I've normally done in the past. So I actually walked down the beach quite a ways away, and there was this pocket of water that was trapped on the beach from the waves crashing up. So what I did is decided to, with the 12 to 100 on, using the articulating screen so I didn't have to like lay down on the ground, because again, waves were washing up into this little pool of water that you see in the foreground here. And all I did is flipped out the articulating screen, kind of lowered it down about at like shin level, a little bit lower than shin level, and composed my shot in the rear display, and just popped off a couple of shots and thought, man, this is kind of neat. I want to get a little bit lower. So I actually ended up with the camera display sitting in the water for just a second to get this shot. It's funny because I had a few people comment like, could you get any lower than that? And I'm like, actually, no, I was kind of in the water for this shot. And this is shot, no filters. This is pretty much straight out of the camera as well. It's cool when you kind of get the exposure like perfect on a shot and you don't have to mess around in post, which I don't mind messing around in post, but again, it's kind of neat to get one right out of the camera like this. So we wrapped up at this location, and the one remaining person on the workshop who was left, everybody else decided that they were done with the weather. It was windy and it was cold and it was snowing. And the one person left, Mike Hedge, and I decided, let's head further south. We'll go back towards Muskegon and we'll end the day there. I'd gotten a hold of a friend of mine who lives there, Jerry James, and asked him, I said, hey, are the skies clear? We're hoping for a sunset down there. And he responded back with a photo showing, partly cloudy, bluish skies, kind of what you'd see here. And I said, all right, we're doing it. So we did the drive. From here, it's a little over 2 hours down there, and we're cruising down, and we get back down there, and the waves were intense. You lose a sense of scale looking at a photo like this a little bit, but if you look on the right-hand side of the image here, the lower level to the right of the little orange rectangles, I guess, there's a door on this lighthouse. Typical door is about 6 foot tall. So you can see the scale of the waves there. I mean, the waves were breaking at, 15, 20 foot high. And when we got there, I took a few shots from the beach, and I had the 300 millimeter with me, and I knew I had a shot in my head. I saw it. Like, as soon as we got to the beach, I thought, man, the way this pier is set up, I can get out and be directly in line with that and just get these shots straight on with the 300 and not have to be super close to where the waves are breaking. So I'm actually, if you know the 300, it's a really long focal length. So I was quite a ways away from what I would call the danger zone, shooting these shots, and I was having a blast with it. On the way out, I paid a lot of attention to where the waves were breaking, because waves tend to break fairly consistently in a place like this, where the water shallows up, and the waves, they break in those spots. So I spent a few minutes watching where they were breaking, looking for patterns. And so I knew how to get out there without getting, too wet. So I did. I went out there, I got my shots, and it was great. Came back, and I was actually really close to shore. I'm going to say 25 or 30 yards from shore, not more than 100 feet away from shore, which really isn't too bad, being out on a pier like that. And no waves were breaking in that area. It was great. And then these two young ladies come up, and I'm a sucker for an English accent, I guess, because they had this cute little English accent. And like, excuse me, sir, could you take our photo? The sun is so pretty behind us. And I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely do that. So I throw my camera bag over my shoulder, stand my tripod up, get the legs splayed out nice and wide. Cause again, the waves and the wind was just intense, still 35-mile-an-hour winds, easy. So made sure they had the legs splayed out far enough to where I wasn't worrying about my camera. Again, EM1 Mark II with a grip and 300 millimeter on there. It's a big combo. It's heavy. And thanks for liking the accent, Steve. I'm doing my best here, buddy. And so I'm taking the photo, and I take one. I'm like, all right, let's recompose a little bit. We'll do another one. And from out of nowhere, water. There was no reason for waves to be breaking in this spot. And it was enough water to jostle me. A couple of, I don't know if squeals can have an English accent. They did. The girls squealed and freaked out a little bit, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I literally had that moment where like you feel your heart completely stop beating for just a second. You feel your face and skin get a little prickly, and I turn and look, and there's no camera and no tripod. And there were a few 4-letter words. I might have made up new words that had 5 or 6 letters in them that were expletives. I kind of freaking out. And I look over, and I see next to the pier there, you can see all these rocks in this image. It's like that all the way down the pier. And I look over the side of the pier, opposite direction where the waves came from, because I figured, that's where my camera went. And there, sure enough, in the water was my camera with the lens attached, and I could see 3 tripod legs sticking up out of the water. And then a big wave rolls in, and everything is submerged again. And then as the wave recedes, I see the legs pop up again, and I think, oh my God, I got to get my memory cards back. So I figure, I know the camera's toast. There's, the weather sealing on Olympus cameras is unlike anything. I swear, I've been out on this exact pier in pouring down rain for 3 hours straight, and my gear was totally fine. And actually it had sat in my camera bag that had water in the bottom of the bag overnight until the next morning. And I realized it had sat in water overnight with no problems. But you cannot submerge a camera underwater being smashed against the rocks for like a minute straight. So I knew that the camera was just gone. It was a lost cause, but I wanted the memory cards. At least I had to have some sort of proof of the day. So I watched the wave roll out, the next wave roll out, climbed down the side of the pier, laid down on a rock, reached in as the wave receded, grabbed the tripod leg, looked up just in time to see another wave come in, smash me. So I'm completely soaked, and I climb back up on the pier, and the girls are like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. Is it waterproof? Is it going to be okay? And I'm like, no, it's not, but it's fine. I mean, I'll survive, as long as I have the photos, I'm going to be okay. So to the end of the story, the camera did not survive. There was actually water inside of the lens. If I rocked the lens back and forth, I could watch water slosh back and forth inside of the front element. And I opened up the memory card doors, and the cards popped out with a little bit of water on them. The camera obviously wasn't working. So I turned the power button off on it just in case. When I opened up the battery door on the battery grip, water came out with the battery, and I think a shrimp or something might have came out with it. So it was pretty much a lost cause. I basically bagged everything up and sent it off to Olympus with a humongous, I am so sorry that I broke another camera this year in water again. I mean, I should have just asked for a water housing, I guess, for the camera, because 2 cameras in 1 year in the water, they're probably like, you know what, dude, you know, we're tired here. Just put it in a water housing from now on, no matter where you go. But walking back to the car, all is not lost. I still at least got to see this scene, and I sat there literally dripping water. And I sat there and just watched this for about 5 or 6 minutes. This is shot with a backup body with the 12-100 on it. Straight out of the camera, no post-processing or nothing. This was just the glorious end to the day. And it's funny, you know, when you watch something like this, when you watch a scene like this, no matter what just happened, you do kind of find this peace. And it was, I'm not gonna say it was worth it. It's never worth it to ruin camera gear. Whether or not you're sponsored by the company or not, it feels god awful to break something. There's like this disgusting sense of guilt. But at the same time, I kind of also feel like, man, if I'm not out there taking risks and creating these images that drive me, then why am I sponsored by anyone? So maybe I'm just trying to justify it to myself. I don't know, but that's just kind of where my heart is with that. So that's my story. That is, yeah, no, Andrew, there's no water housing for the 300. I know, right? But yeah, so for those who didn't hear the story online of how I basically blew through probably the most expensive setup you can do with an Olympus camera, that's how I did it. And on to the next 2 photos. I'll end with these 2. These were not shot with my camera. These were shot with my phone. I'm going to be one of those guys that actually talks about shooting with his phone for just a second, just because I'm pretty impressed with how well this phone's doing. So it's the new Pixel 3 XL, straight off of the, I don't want to say camera because I feel like such a dork for calling my phone a camera, but I'm going to say straight off the phone. Just shot the other night, just went outside to go pick up my son from work, turned around, looked at the Halloween lights my wife had put on the porch, and decided to see what my phone could do in low light. Pretty impressed. It's f1.4 and ISO 444. Isn't that a weird ISO? Gotta love what a phone can do. So yeah, kind of cool. The dynamic range is pretty bonkers on this thing. And then the last shot is a shot of this is one of our Shih Tzus. This is Luna, and I knew if I put her on the table to test portrait mode, I'd be fine because she's terrified to be up that high because it's like being 50 feet in the air for a Shih Tzu. So she sat still for that shot. And this is just testing the single lens portrait mode. So the Pixel XL doesn't have 2 cameras on the back of it. It's just got a single one. So it uses, we're going to say computational photography because that's the buzzword right now. It uses computational photography to figure out depth mapping based on your hand movements. It just sounds like engineering magic to me. So it works out pretty good. And behind Luna there in the Amazon box is the dearly departed EM1 Mark II, the HLD9 grip, and 300mm f4 Pro. And yeah, so I feel like kind of a jerk for doing that, but hey, you know.
that was a good story, man.
Well,
I mean, it was a story, but you know, I really wasn't even going to go into this, but it was a storied weekend. Because I wasn't going to admit to this, but I'm going to now and talk about what I did on the same weekend. In fact, Jamie's somewhat involved because I was asking him if he could come up and help me out. So I went up north over the weekend, and I actually only have 1 shot to show for it tonight. I've got to get to those shots. But, and, you know, it was a weekend to get away with Lou Peoples, who I've done some workshops with in Detroit, his wife, my wife. We're all going up to Petoskey, about 4 hours away from home. And, you know, colors and all that. And, of course, we're going to bring cameras. Lou and I are going to go shoot. Wife's going to go do something else. Literally 15 minutes inside of Petoskey. And it just dawned on me that I had been charging a bunch of stuff, and I left every bit of my photo equipment at home. And I didn't even know how to handle it. I just could not, like, even Denise, my wife, she's looking at me going, what's wrong? I mean, like, are you going to be able to even get through this weekend? And I really didn't know if I even could, because the whole thing was planned to go do some shooting, you know, and so I came up with this idea. Lou helped me figure it out, and I got a shout out to my son, Aaron. So Aaron he gets off work early on Friday. He goes, gets my equipment for me, drives it up 2.5 hours to Saginaw. I drive down 2.5 hours to Saginaw with Lou at a hotel. We meet, exchange the box. And the best thing though on Friday, because we went up on Friday, it was just pure washout Friday for rain. I don't know how it was by you. But I remember texting Jamie and saying, "Hey, are you going to be anywhere up north this weekend?" I forgot about the event that you had. But I got my gear and I got to shoot Saturday. So that's all that mattered, Saturday and Sunday. But man, you know, when you're not prepared, anything can happen. I think
even when you
I
are
think that's
prepared,
what, you know, yeah, I just, you know, and I had everything, man. I had the DJI Go 4 or the gimbal. I was going to do all kinds of crazy stuff. That's what I had charging. But hey, you know what? It didn't happen. I did challenge myself with the iPhone for a little bit.
There you go.
You know, that was interesting. And you know what I did work with? I got a shout out to Quamanon Falls with the iPhone in the through Lightroom raw long exposure handheld.
Yeah.
That's different. I held handheld for 5 seconds.
Wow.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to explain. In fact, I think I flipped somebody out that was standing next to me because it takes like 100 shots and then it sends it to the cloud and then brings it back down. So it wasn't even working there because in Tequamanon Falls, and I know you know
service.
this.
Oh yeah.
There's no service. I mean,
yeah.
You're 2.5 hours past Petoskey.
Yeah.
Just 4 hours from the house. I mean, you are in nowhere's land.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Although the city's called Paradise, there's the internet is not paradise there.
No, there's really nothing there.
But yeah, so it's cool. If anybody's ever tried that with Lightroom Mobile, go in and try that handheld shot. Do it light streaks. Do it at night. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
All right. So hey, so I've been wearing this all show. You haven't been able to see it, but it's the new Insta 360, the 1X, the 360 camera. This is it right here. And I mean, literally, I only tried one thing on it so far, and that was going across the George Washington Bridge in New York today. I haven't been able to even look at the video. But this camera, I can already tell I shot a small video in the room here. And it's so much better. If anybody knows the old Insta360, I don't have one with me. But you had to have it hooked to the camera to do the post. Phone has that. It's the Wi-Fi 5 or whatever. I don't know. I'm telling you, it hooks in Wi-Fi just like our cameras do for Olympus.
Yep.
It is twice as fast as that. It just flies. For a 17-minute movie going over that bridge at 5.7K came over in about 2 minutes.
Nice.
That's pretty intense.
The image stabilization on that new one is insane. The videos I've seen put out with that, it looks like it looks like something that you'd see from a Hollywood production, and it's done from that little thing that's hanging around your neck. I know it's got the cinematic, so you can go 5.7K. I'm looking at the thing, and that's at 50 frames. No, the 5.7K is at 30 frames a second. Gotcha.
Yeah, the 50 frames a second is a 4K, and then it's got the 100 frames a second 3K, which I'm real excited to try to get some slow-mo and see what that looks like. Very cool. The post-processing where you can, it's called this time shift, where it's like a time warp blur where you can speed up, slow down your movies. It's going to be pretty interesting to see what we can do with it. So you'll probably hear me talk about it later, but I don't know. I think that this could be the good one to make some instructional videos. So, this one might be pretty cool just to have hanging around off the top of my hat.
You go. Yeah.
But All right.
That won't look dorky at all.
No, not at all. I just, as long as my kids aren't around, it'll be fine. If
Just
I'm
tell 'em
around
you're
other photographers, it's fine.
I'm working for Google Maps doing sidewalks. You just
That's
walk,
right.
you know.
That's exactly.
So a
That's
couple
it.
things I want to talk about real quick
Yeah.
too. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
Because I rambled on in my little story with accents and everything. I just wanted to make sure that we announced who won the book.
Oh, yeah.
I've been excited to do this because, you know, for those who've been following the show, you know that I did the workshop a month ago or so in the Upper Peninsula, and one of the attendees, Amy Horn, she was here from Arizona, incredible photographer who actually put out an astounding book on macro photography. She's an Olympus user as well. So when you're going through the book, you'll see Olympus equipment and the settings used and everything. And, you know, again, for those who aren't aware, we're giving away a copy of this book. When she was up there, I said, do you have any copies? She said, yeah, I've got a couple. I said, then I'll take both of them because I want one for me, which my wife has had and won't give back. She's been loving it. And then the other one I wanted to give away on the show here. So that's what we were doing. We did the hashtag Mirrorless Macro, and Roger Doyle is the person whose name was drawn. And I don't know if I've interacted with Roger or not, but it's cool. He's here in the United States. I'm so glad I picked somebody in the US.
We don't have to send it to
$100 so I'm being cheap on that, I guess. But anyways, so Roger, just get a hold of either Mike or I, and we'll get your mailing address and all that stuff, and we'll get this book sent out to you ASAP. I'm pretty excited to get it out to you.
That book is awesome. I gotta get myself a copy. I saw that one of the wood shavings.
Yes, yeah.
That looks like Stonehenge or something like that.
Right, yeah.
Stonehenge with wood shavings.
And for everybody else who did not win the book, again, I'll put the link so that you can go and order it yourself. And Bob Panic is asking if I can show Roger's image. His image is actually going to show up in the gallery on the Facebook page, for the Mirrorless Minutes Facebook page. We do a gallery for every episode. And that was kind of what I was thinking about doing, was just putting his winning image in the gallery for the people who listen to the audio version so they can go see it as well. So for those curious about the winning image, swing on over to the Mirrorless Minutes Facebook page after the show is over, maybe in the morning, depends on how much I can get done. And then, so again, just reach out, Roger Doyle. I've got a book to send you.
Cool. Good job, Roger. All right.
Workshop stuff to talk about, don't you?
Yeah. Workshops to talk about next year, 2019. Megan and Crandallmeyer and I, we did a workshop the week after your workshop with Mark. Yep. In New York City, real small one. We're making them for only 4 people. We're going to do it again. We got the dates now, and we'll get more information out to people real soon. But it's going to be the weekend of May 4th and 5th. So, mark your calendars. Look for it if you're available. Megan's already got an entirely different lineup of where we're going to go. The agenda is different. We're going to do maybe 1 or 2 things the same. But, she knows New York City, after going so much time. And then I, just talking to her even some more about how much she's gone over the years. And when you're in Connecticut, she's like a 35-minute train ride to New York. So, I mean, I'm just thinking about how you and I would just have a blast with that. Oh boy. If we could just jump on a train and jump, and then get out of New York, because who the heck wants to be in there all the time? I don't know if I'd want to live there all the time, but at certain days I would. So May 3rd, 5th, and then did you guys did you put one yet?
No, we haven't announced. No, Mark and I have to sit down and solidify dates for that. But it'll be before the end of the year. We're probably going to look at working in conjunction with Vanguard again, and the Olympus, see who all we can get on board for some of these things. I think that if I can pull it off to get company sponsorship for these, then usually it ends up being an extra benefit to the attendees. I know that everybody that went on the UP one was pretty floored with how that worked out. So stay tuned. I know for you and I are meeting on the 4th. We're going to discuss next year's workshop plans. And then I know Mark and I will be meeting sometime again prior to the end of the year. So I would say for people who are interested in the workshops and attending workshops that we're doing, aside from the one that you've already announced, if you're just keep it open that sometime right within like the first week or 2 of the new year, I think most of the entire schedule for the year will be out, except for the little ones that we just kind of pop out there here and there.
And what's the best way, Jamie, that people would know that?
I'm going to think that if you are either a member of our Patreon page, if you go to patreon.com/mirrorless minutes, that's one way. Or the bestest way is, I said bestest, is to go to meetup.com/mirrorless adventures, because that's where all the workshops post. I think next year, though, what's going to end up happening is that Patreon members are going to get early access to these. I know that some of these workshops are going to sell out fast. And then there will be no waiting list for people that are Patreon subscribers. Even if you're just a $1 Patreon subscriber, you're going to get early access. So it's something to keep in mind. I think the workshop dates and registration will hit there first. And it'll probably like 2 to 3 weeks first. So
give you some time to think about it or whatever. And so, hey, workshops are a great Christmas present too. I know we're getting close to the season.
That's a cool idea. Right? I like that.
So maybe you talk to your significant other and say, hey, I'd like to go on a workshop with these crazy guys. And I know the one we're going to do is going to be a blowout one, because I'm getting excited about it. Wherever we end up hitting.
It won't be a Michigan workshop, folks. It's going to be where you decide it's going to be.
Right.
I know we're at our 30-minute mark, but before we go, I just want to give a little bit of a recommendation. Actually, I can't recommend it yet because I haven't read it. That's coming soon. But one of my favorite photography can't even talk. One of my favorite photography podcasts that I've been listening to for years is The Candid Frame. That's by Barry and X Perillo. It's an interview format, and I'm not just saying I like it because I was fortunate enough to have been interviewed on it. It's a truly inspiring podcast to listen to. The people that are on there, they're just like you. And it's just a wonderful podcast to listen to. But so Barry and X has published a book. It's available actually on Rocky Nook, but it's called Making Photographs, Develop a Personal Visual Workflow. I'm going to be getting a review copy of that. I'm totally pumped to do a review of that book, but sight unseen, I am willing to put my name out there and say that it's probably going to be worth the read. So maybe give it a look. See, again, it's over on Rocky Nook. Maybe I'm letting the cat out of the bag a little early. I don't know, but just go over to Rocky Nook and just look for Making Photographs, Develop a Personal Visual Workflow. If it's up over there for sale, then I guess I didn't say anything too soon.
Right.
And also maybe give his podcast a subscribe. Again, that's The Candid Frame. It definitely would be worth your time. It's part of my morning commute on a regular basis. So with that said, go ahead.
Can I zip through some pictures?
Oh gosh. Yeah, you didn't even, I didn't even let you share. No, we're done.
All right. Sorry. That's all right. I figure you could take a drink. All right, and I'm going to go through them pretty quick anyway. So, all right, let's see. Can you see that one there?
Sure can.
Okay, so this was recently. You did a small workshop. No colors. That's why we always say join, because you never know when something's going to pop up. And I did this one with Lou Peoples, who was down in Detroit constantly shooting. And we walked around with maybe 10 or 15. It was a cold, rainy day. Of course, it seems like every time we do one of these things in Michigan, it's cold and rainy. But we had a great time. And this is just a shot. This is I had the Pen F with me. I had two lenses. I had the 17 millimeter 1.8, and then I just had the fisheye, the body cap fisheye. And this one's with the body cap fisheye. And also taken with the dramatic art filter, just getting in different areas. Look, and also it's crazy how sharp some of the off that little fisheye can actually be. So a couple more as I get through my shots from New York. I want to keep working at here. This one is this reflection. We just I think we probably had too many people on our group. Even 4 was too many. This is a great reflecting wall here, along with a window and door. So we stood out there and just waited for people to come out. This is just a fun way to get some pictures that make people think a little bit more about what's happening. That's with the Pen F for sure. The 17-1.8. This one here, some craziness in New York City. This just, reminds me of New York City. All the darn pigeons just going crazy. It looks like the attack of the birds. One of the workshop attendees got a biker coming through here. Wish I had her picture right now. When all these took off, all these birds took off, it scared the biker so bad her face was just screaming. It looks like something from the Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Birds, when she went past all these things. But then we were walking through Soho and just love this shot of these ladies solving all the world's problems, hanging out there and just talking, even if they're waiting for a bus or what they were doing. But it was a cool shot with the different colors. And this is in the color profile, number 2 off the Pen F on this one. Again, a lot of that Pen F shots, the 17 millimeter, would be straight out of camera. I didn't do much post-processing. Then the morning, we went over, one of the things we went over is we took a boat out onto the harbor and went across, and this is just a shot of the Brooklyn Bridge, but from way underneath it, just showing the spans and the size, which is a lot of fun. This is 12-100 on the, this one's probably the EM1 Mark II. This is the second day. And we walked over the bridge too. When during the day, we spent most of the time out in Dumbo area, but then came back and walked over the bridge. And lots of people got good pictures of the bridge, and you should. But I was looking for detail. And this is just the craziness of the detail in that bridge and the big spines that go through it. But the flag blowing in there was one that really set it off for me. So I wanted to put that out. This 12-100 dramatic art. Actually, this one's a simple monotone right out of the camera. That's not dramatic art. And this is the only shot I've got right now for up north. And the reason I even took this tiny planet is because this is Tequamanon Falls here, and I'm standing there with my wife taking the 360. This is on the original 361. But the way that Tequamanon Falls looks here with the water and all, it almost looks like planet Earth. So it's truly a tiny planet shot, and a lot of fun. Really cold, as you can probably tell there, but a lot of fun to see the falls, and that's that.
Cool.
So yeah, I like that. That one was a little funny when I saw it. I went, oh my gosh, I can't believe I actually got that.
Nice. So how did you guys like your trip up there?
It was fantastic. That's the first time I've ever been there.
Yeah.
To Tequamanon Falls. My wife's been there a couple times, but I had never been there, and I need to go when it's a little bit warmer and earlier. We went, I think we got there at 10:30, 11. Even then it was getting busy with that cold weather.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get up there early, and it's just, that isn't something you do when you're on a trip with other people. So
depends on how long you want to make them wait.
Right. You got it. So
yeah.
So great show. Hey, I got to show you one quick thing. Here's my kit that I'm traveling with. My Insta360 and my TG5. That's it.
Nice.
Oh, and a mini tripod. So that's the way to go, man. I love it.
I wish I had no filters to that. Yeah.
No filters.
Yeah. Something about your genre just seems to have definitely its merits,
Yeah.
Easy to pack light for sure.
But see, I would have lost my whole camera kit if a wave hits me. But so
you might have been out a little less than me.
But actually that tough might have made it through.
It would have made it through.
I know.
It's funny. I had so many people, comment on, my stories saying, what about your new phone? I'm like, hell, I wish that would have been the only thing. It's IP68 rated. It could have sat down there for a half hour and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. There's a gentleman named John Schaefer, lives in Utah. He's I'm not sure who he writes for. He's a reviewer. Kind of had interactions with him because he's done. Excuse me. Wow. First time sneezing on air. He's done some reviews of Olympus cameras, and he commented on my post, and it really made me feel good about it. And I don't know if he was just saying it for me or if it's really what he believes, but it kind of definitely resonated with me. So that's the difference between a hobbyist and somebody who's a professional or dedicated, to being a professional photographer. And that is, sometimes you throw caution to the wind and you do what is necessary to make images that other people are not making. That whole day out there, the whole time I was there for an hour, nobody was out there shooting the shot I was getting. Everybody was shooting from shore. Granted, it's safer, you know, and I've put myself at risk several times, and I've shared a few pictures online showing so. But, you know, sometimes, again, to capture the images that nobody else is doing, to get a different perspective, you just kind of have to roll those dice, you know, and sometimes you roll craps, and I rolled craps twice this year. So no casino for me for a while, but, I guess with that said, I guess we can wrap up this show. You have safe travels, sir. And everybody else, remember, we'll have some news coming up really soon about some potential locations that you get to vote on for Mike and Eyes Workshop next year. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll remember show notes, my address for your condolence letters for my equipment.
All right.
We'll talk to you guys later.
See you, everybody.